All right, everybody. Drew Duncan here for Sync 57 Sports. Not going to spend a lot of time on this. Obviously, we're going to get to more of it on Monday morning, but just wanted to kind of get on this really quick here. Michigan, obviously, they dominate Ohio State, specifically in the second half, which is where teams like Michigan and TCU that we've seen over the course of the season have been really good. Look, I know that a lot of people who saw the podcast are going to talk about McCarthy and playing a great game. McCarthy played a good game, and Cornelius Johnson and the guys around him played an even better game. Now, I know J.J. McCarthy made that throw initially to Cornelius Johnson. He was under duress, was able to get the ball out, and then from there, Cornelius made a play, right? Well, great and all, but a couple of floaters, obviously, on two of the other touchdown passes that we saw, guys really had to stop. Put the brakes on all the way, as a matter of fact, in order to be able to get to the ball. It was really the play calling in Ohio State taking a lot of risk by just blitzing all the way, not believing that McCarthy was going to be able to be as effective as he was. But even then, I think it was only like 12 out of 24. So 50% completion percentage, not really the greatest in the world, what you're looking for there. Obviously, there was a drop pass on something that probably should have been caught. McCarthy got out of the pocket, made a throw. Tough catch to make, but I think you have to make that catch regardless. Let's call it 13 out of 24 is what it would have been. So a good day from McCarthy, but an even better day with the play calling. Obviously, with the deep throws that forced Ohio State's defense to back off. And so they were able to get the running game going, especially with Edwards. And then, of course, the defense showed up and did what they needed to do. They created 2 turnovers. In fact, Ohio State only a field goal in the second half. It came into the fourth quarter, a scoreless third quarter. Michigan, of course, 21-3 is what they outscore Ohio State by in the fourth quarter. I talked about the Michigan defense being very prolific. We've seen that now a couple of years in a row from Michigan. They have played very solid defensively. And of course, defensively, I've said I think that they could compete with anybody in the country. Now, whether or not they could beat Georgia, I still maintain that they can't. I think that we would see the same result from them playing Georgia this season as we saw last season. I understand that McCarthy's a little bit more experienced, but some of those floater balls that you throw, you're not going to be able to do that against a team like Georgia. And I know that, somebody's going to say, well, the play calling, and if the guys are open, it won't matter. It will matter. The makeup speed and the makeup game and the defensive strategy from Georgia is going to be completely different than what we saw against, from Ohio State, I should say. Because I'm going to tell you right now, Ohio State, what they did was they just bet the farm one too many times defensively, and they were unable to get to where they needed to go. Obviously, when you bet the farm, you take that opportunity, especially when you're running zone and you bet the farm, well, then everybody gets sucked in by the potential run game, then you throw it over the top, which is, schematically what you want to do, right? We see it all the time with the option game, really any type of run game. I've always said, as long as you can run the football and you play solid defense, you can win a championship. But you've also got to, at some point, have the quarterback play that's consistent enough and good enough that when the running game completely fails you, much like it did in the first half for Michigan. And even then, it really wasn't a great start from Michigan. It really was that play by Cornelius Johnson that broke that thing wide open for the Wolverines. If it hadn't been for that play, I think Ohio State ends up blowing out Michigan. And there were a couple of other things that we'll get into that I saw. Some of the play calling, 3rd and inches, man, either just sneak that ball up and get a first down, or, throw it over the top of their heads like, you've done a couple times in that game. Sometimes we just complicate it too much and really overthink it. One thing I don't want to see is out of shotgun, 7 yards behind the line of scrimmage, try and get the first down against Georgia. That damn sure is going to be the same thing that we saw against Ohio State. You're not going to be able to get that 99% of the time. So just run that thing right up the middle. If we want to go fullback sets or whatever the case may be, fine. But 7 yards out, 3rd and inches, sneak it or go over the top, But so that was my quick synopsis on that. Obviously, like I said, we'll dive deeper into it on Monday for the program. Don't forget, you guys can listen anywhere, anytime. Tell your device to play Drew Duncan Sync 57 on Google Podcasts, iTunes, iHeart, Spreaker, Deezer, etc. We are just about wherever you're listening to podcasts. And as always, stay safe and take care of yourselves.